All right, everybody settle down. Everybody please relax. Got another video coming to you. Today we're talking about structuring your nutrition and some strategies for dieting to help you get your nutrition dialed in. So let's say you've been training a little bit, 3 to 6 months. You're roaring through the LP. Maybe you're starting to get a little chonky. Maybe you just never really focused on nutrition at all and it's kind of becoming your limiting factor. So this video is going to help you out. We're going to find a way to get your nutrition in order, get your lifts moving again. But yeah, let's get right into it, all right? So, this is how I generally structure nutrition for myself and my clients. Step number one, taking a whole foods approach. And I'm not talking about the grocery store. You don't have to go there and spend $700 a week on groceries. That doesn't need to happen, right? I'm talking about whole foods in the sense that they are foods that occur naturally in the world, like a chicken egg, or a piece of chicken, or chicken milk, or milk from a cow would be better. But yeah, so foods that aren't like processed and highly palatable and nonsense. So like French fries, not a whole food. What's another example? Ice cream, for example, not a whole food, unfortunately, even though I do love it. But yeah, so stick to mostly that. Fruits and vegetables, animal products, carbs and grains and stuff like that. Uh, I wouldn't be too worried about so there's a lot of if you go online there's a lot of doctors that talk about you got to watch out for like high glycemic this or process that or whatever, and like minimal processing is fine if you're someone that trains. Like if you're training heavy and hard, you're not the same as someone that just sits around and does nothing. Like if someone that sits around and does nothing eats a lot of white rice, it might spike their insulin and their glucose, and it might raise their A1C and put them at risk. If you're training hard and heavy, if you eat white rice, like a serving or two a day, you're gonna be just fine. It's not gonna have an impact at all. So don't be afraid of white bread and white rice and stuff like that necessarily. Um, don't eat it like nonstop throughout the day. You're gonna want to kind of bias your carbs around your training. So I'm gonna talk about this video, but don't be afraid of like white rice, for example. That's still pretty much a whole food. I guess white bread, you're pushing it a little bit there, but you just don't want to be eating like a cookie. It's not, that doesn't count. All right, let's be real. All right, so that's whole foods, most important thing. So all the foods in your diet, or at least 80 to 90%, are going to come from those whole foods. Um, and then after that, protein first. Wow, what a surprise. We're going to need protein to lift heavy and fuel our training. I know, it's a crazy idea. So for most guys, pretty much all guys, you're going to need at least 200 grams of protein. For women, the 1 gram per pound of body weight is a better target. I mean, if you want to get to 200 pounds as a woman, I fully support that. I think you should. But anyways, yeah, so protein, very important, and you can see in the template down here, I'm going to add everything else afterwards, but the protein is evenly spaced out. So most important is that you get the total daily protein target. So getting 200 grams of protein is better than getting 120, even if you space it out evenly, in my opinion. But if you're being optimal, then you're getting 200 grams and you're spacing it out throughout the day, right? So the thing about protein is that you can't store it for later like carbs or fat. You don't have like glycogen stores for protein. So when you take it in, you either use it to build stuff and repair stuff, or you use it as energy, and then it doesn't sit around in the body. So it's good to keep getting it in every few hours. That's my recommendation. For carbs, right? Everybody's favorite. Everyone loves carbs. We need at least 250 grams. Even that's kind of low. That's generally where I'd start for like an older guy, right? If you're like a 50, 60-year-old guy, start at like 250. If you're a younger guy, you're going to be up in at least the mid threes probably. At least 300 to 400, depending on how long you've been training too. Because, as you start out, you don't need as much. And then as you start getting stronger and stronger, you're going to need more and more. By the time you're relatively advanced, you're probably going to be eating closer to like 350, 400 grams of carbs a day. Very important. So the priority is whole foods. Then you have your protein dialed in, right? So that's the template down here. Then next you would fill in the carbs, which we'll do in a second. And then fats are last as needed. And I write that because fats are in everything, right? You're getting like animal proteins. Every single animal protein is going to have some kind of fat if it's worth eating. So you don't need to worry about like adding extra fats in, but you can if you enjoy the taste of them, or it's good to just get like certain types every now and then. You do need a certain amount of essential fatty acids, so you got to get your EPA and DHA. Fish oil tablets help with that, or you can just eat a good amount of fish as well. Honestly, both is good. I found that even like eating fish every single day can be not enough to get all the EPA and DHA that you need. So it's good to add in a little bit of fats here and there. They taste delicious as well. Your life's going to be boring and sad without some fat in it. So feel free to sprinkle some in here and there. I'll show you how to do that. And then as number 5, this crazy little acronym, IFYM, which stands for if it fits your macros, very popular style of dieting, also kind of referred to as like flexible dieting, right? Basically, you don't want to just adhere to this 100% of the time because you're going to go nuts, right? This is like 80-90% of the time you're eating good, clean foods, eating healthy, and then every now and then you're incorporating junk food essentially with this step, right? So this is an intelligent way to incorporate junk food so that you don't go off the deep end, right? So it's like an example is, let's say you are adhering to this meal schedule, right? You got your 5 meals, 40 grams of protein in each meal. Let's say this one is like eggs, this is yogurt, this is some salmon, and then you've got like some cottage cheese here, and then this last one is like a whey protein shake and then like an ice cream sundae because you're like, I'm tired of eating clean, I need to throw something in there, some kind of junk food. But the stipulation is if it fits your macros, right? So you're not going to eat the ice cream sundae if it puts you way over on your total calories. You're not going to eat the ice cream sundae if it puts you way over on your total carbs or your total fats or whatever, which is basically going to put you over in calories. And then you're not going to do it if you're going to get like 0 protein. So the stipulation is like, you eat your ice cream sundae, but you also like drink a protein shake with it so you get enough protein at the same time. And that kind of keeps you from just going off the rails and being like, well, I ate the ice cream last night, so I'll just eat pizza today, and then I'll just have fried chicken. And then before you know it, it's like your diet's gone to crap, there's no structure, and it's total nonsense. So staying within this really helps you out to get all these in, right? And then another tool, so this, as I talked about in one of the nutrition videos I made already, is you can do this most of the time, right? If you have a pretty reliable schedule, right? You can kind of get into your routine, do this most of the time. But sometimes, you're traveling or you have holidays or things are going to get hairy, like you have like a dinner that you're going to, like a family dinner, there's going to be a ton of food, or if it's like Thanksgiving, or if you're doing like, if you're traveling and you're going to be eating like, you're going to be at a function all day and then you're going to eat later on, then you can do this kind of like time-restricted eating approach, which is not optimal, but you can employ it and again, kind of minimize the damage. So I also put the IF in quotes as Rip likes, the IF, right? So basically what that is let's say that you're, like Thanksgiving is a great example. You're going to go to your parents' house and eat 40 bajillion calories for your meal that day. So basically in the morning, instead of eating your normal like 3 meals here, you can kind of just eat like 1 meal with protein. Let's say you're going to train right before you go over for Thanksgiving, right? So let's say you normally train at like 1 p.m. You're having a late Thanksgiving. You guys are doing the very literal Thanksgiving dinner. So Thanksgiving dinner starts at 4 p.m., right? You're training at 1 p.m. So maybe at like, normally you would eat at like 8 a.m. or like 7 a.m. when you first wake up, right? Get your meals going. But on this day, you're going to push your first meal all the way to 11:30 a.m., right? So you're just going to have 1 meal, 40 grams of protein, have enough carbs to fuel your training session. Then you go train. And then you're just going to eat your normal Thanksgiving dinner meal, which is going to have like a bajillion calories, like I said. And then maybe like 1 more later if you still have room to eat. If you're like me, you're probably just going to like gorge yourself with a Thanksgiving meal and then call it a day. But yeah, so you're basically only eating like 2, maybe 3 meals that day, just because of the nature of how large the meal is that you're going to eat later. So that can minimize the damage. And also kind of makes it more enjoyable because then you're not like going to Thanksgiving dinner having already had 3 meals that day and like you're not as hungry as you would be. Because, I want to be like a little bit hungry so that I can pound a bunch of tasty food, enjoy myself, and then I'll kind of go back to my normal routine the day after. And like, if I do that one time, it doesn't make me feel like I want to keep doing it over and over again. Everybody's different psychologically. Some people, they do that and then they just kind of like, it's like giving a drug addict drugs and they just like freak out and then they have to do that over and over again. So you have to know your psychology. If you're the type of person that's going to do this and then go off the deep end and screw up your nutrition for weeks to come, then don't do this. But this works for me. It's my recommendation. So yeah, let's get into the template here, right? We got these 5 meals laid out. And as I said before, you want to spread the protein out. That's optimal. right? So let's add some times for these. I'll give you, this is my personal eating schedule based off, so I'm a little bit earlier than most people, but so this is 5:30 a.m. for the first meal, and then meal 2 is around like 8:30. And then meal 3 is usually around like noon, so 12 p.m. And then meal 4, I usually eat that one at like, what is that, like 2 or 2:30? So like 2:30 or 3 p.m., something like that. And then meal 5, I'll eat this one around like 5 to 6 p.m. Let's just put 5, doesn't really matter. So yeah, I'm having these 5 meals. You can do 4 meals, you can do 6 meals. It doesn't matter. I would honestly suggest at least 4, because if you're trying to get 200 grams of protein in 3 meals, that is a ton of protein at one time, which is very difficult to eat. A ton of food at one time also. You're probably going to get more hungry between your meals, and you're probably just going to have issues getting all that food in at one time. You might feel more bloated. It's not going to be as good for your training. So those are just my recommendations. Some people can pull it off, I guess, but I don't think it's optimal. But anyways, so the first meal, 5:30 a.m., right? Getting the 40 grams of protein. And then I want to specifically designate this meal right here is my pre-training, right? Oh, whoops. There we go. We got a little pre-training meal. And then we got, at this one right here, we got a little post-training. A little dash arena right in there. All right. So the way I want to structure my carbs now, so let's say I'm going to pick a nice round number. I'll pick 300. We got 5 meals. That would be, if I were to distribute those evenly, it'd be 60 grams per meal. But I actually don't want to distribute them evenly because carbs are very useful for training or for fueling your training session, and then also for recovering from that training session by replenishing your glycogen. So I want to bias more of the carbs around the training session. And then I also think there's some validity to like general health and insulin sensitivity by doing it that way. So you don't want to be, like I said before, I kind of alluded to, for if I'm training here between these 2 meals, I don't want to eat like 100 grams of high glycemic carbs at 5 p.m. because that's just kind of like useless. It's just spiking my insulin and like giving me a ton of carbs that I'm not really going to use immediately, right? But for this meal, if I'm about to train, I do want 100 grams of carbs. So here, go ahead and put 100 grams of carbs right there. And then for the one right after, I just trained really hard, so I need glycogen to replenish my muscles. So I'm going to put 100 grams of carbs there, right? So 100 grams of carbs essentially. This doesn't have to be an exact number. I actually don't do quite this many, but it's just an example, right? I'm just exaggerating that you want most of your carbs around the training window. And then aside from that, let's say maybe this one in the morning, I want a little bit more because it's still pre-training, so I kind of want to get the carb thing going early. So I'll do 50 grams of carbs here, and that puts me at 250, right? So then I'll do the extra 25 at this meal, and then 25 at this meal. And again, that's not like exactly what I do, but just an example, just kind of displaying that we want most of the carbs around the training window, right? And then after that, I'll go ahead and do some fats and just kind of let those kind of fall where they fall, right? And then if I want to add extra to the meals, then I can add extra, right? So let's break down like what these actual meals could be and how you can, that's also going to influence like what kind of fats you're going to add, or if you're going to add fats at all, right? So we need to look at these. This is all fine and dandy what we have on paper, but right now it's just numbers on the screen. It means nothing. So we need to apply some actual practicality to it, give something pragmatic to work with. So for meal 1 at 5:30 a.m., I like to do, I pretty much always do this. It's like I do overnight oats because I'm waking up so early in the morning. So, you know, I could have easily just been like, oh yeah, meal 1, 5:30 a.m., I'm going to eat eggs because that's what you eat for breakfast, right? But the problem with that is that I don't want to wake up at 4 o'clock to have time to cook eggs and then like go to work after that. So basically my strategy is to roll out of bed as late as possible, grab something that's pre-made from the day before and eat that for breakfast, right? That way I don't have to wake up absurdly early, even though I already am waking up absurdly early. But basically for meal 1, I'm going to make something the night before. What I do is usually like some overnight oats, and I go heavy on the Greek yogurt in the oats. So if you've never made overnight oats, they're pretty simple. You just take rolled oats, put them in a little container, you mix some milk in with them so they get nice and like soapy, and then you can also mix in I like yogurt because it makes it more creamy. But you got to put something in there to make it nice and creamy and delicious. So I'll usually mix in 1 or 2 servings of Greek yogurt. So that's already like, I think each serving of Greek yogurt is like 18 grams of protein, something like that. So 1 to 2 of those. I'll usually do like 1.5 or so. So that gives me like, what is that, like 27 grams of protein, something like that. Even if I just do one, it's 18, that's fine. And then I also have either some milk or like a protein shake with that as well. So that gets me up to around 40 grams. So you actually don't need to do exactly 40 at every meal. As long as you're going, I wouldn't go under like 30, and then I wouldn't go over like 50. So I usually do like 30 to 50 per meal. So this one I'm getting between that, right? 30 to 50 grams of protein. I'm having, as I said, for the protein sources, I'm having Greek yogurt, some milk, the milk that's mixed in with the oats, and then also like some milk in like a cup or something. If I have coffee too, I can always just like put the coffee in the milk. And then if I don't have the milk, maybe I'll have like a protein shake or something. So that's my first meal. Pretty simple. The carbs come from the oats, right? And then I'll add some toppings to that, because if I just do the oats by themselves, it's kind of bland, right? So I usually do like a little bit of peanut butter and coconut, and then maybe some kind of fruit like bananas or blueberries or something like that, or raspberries are pretty good in that meal. But yeah, so I'll add like a tiny bit of fats to that, right? But just to make the meal taste good and have it not be like stupid, because if I just eat overnight oats by themselves, it's kind of stupid. And then meal 2, I usually do another overnight oats here because I'm lazy, and so when I make this one the night before, I can make this one at the same time. And then usually all I do is I just add more oats, right? So this one was like half as many, this one's twice as many. And then sometimes I also like flip these around. Sometimes I'll eat more carbs here and then less here, because I actually usually wind up training at like 10:30. Sometimes I don't want like a ton of oatmeal. This is really between like 8:30 and 9. So I don't want a ton of oatmeal like an hour and a half before I train sometimes. So I'll have like the bigger one beforehand. I feel like it digests more that way. Then I'll have the smaller one right there. But it really doesn't matter that much. But so in this one, I said I'll do more of like a peanut butter coconut style flavor palette. This one will do more of like a fruit flavor palette. So I might do like some mixed berries. I actually do enjoy eating chia seeds. I like a little crunch, so I'll put like some chia seeds in there. I put like hemp seeds in every now and then. You can just try stuff out, kind of put it whenever you're feeling like at the day. But it's basically like these meals are templates, right? So it's like the overnight oats is the template, and then I can mix whatever toppings I want based on what I feel like that day. And then everyone's different. Like I don't have an issue eating the same thing all the time. Some people that don't like eating the same thing, you're going to have more than one template, more than one meal that you can kind of switch into here, right? All right. So then the post-training meal, also, I make this the night before. So you can see, like, I wake up very early. I go into work in the morning. So, like, these first 3 meals are basically pre-made from the night before. If you're someone that works from home, then your template might look totally different, right? You might be cooking 3 times in the morning here if you have the luxury to do so. If you don't like to cook, you can also take the same approach and just kind of make stuff the night before. But anyways, you get the idea, right? You're just kind of tailoring this to your schedule. It's pretty applicable to most people. So the post-training meal, this one, same macros here as you can see. Usually for the protein, I'll do a protein shake right away. And then I'll also have like a can of sardines, because I really like canned fish for whatever reason. It's also very good for you. You get like those healthy fats from that, like I was saying. And then I'll mix the canned fish in with, it's kind of like a burrito bowl, but more like a Mediterranean bowl. I'll usually make like some white rice and then mix it in with a bunch, like basically a salad. So like spring mix, red onions, sometimes some peppers in there. This is usually the first time I eat vegetables through the day. So I usually have fruits here and there and like the oatmeal for fiber. I think that's important as well. And then I get the vegetables in right here. And then I also have like, a good bit of white rice because I think it's delicious. I eat a lot of that. And then I mix the sardines in with that. And then as I said, I had the protein shake before that. So I usually don't add fats to this meal because it's already got the sardines and everything. And also, I don't think you want like a ton of fats right after training because there's something about it like slowing down the digestion and messing up the nutrient absorption. I don't think that matters all that much, but it's just kind of what I do and it works well. Then meal 4 after this is usually after I've gotten out of the gym from work because I work at the gym. And so I'm usually going to eat this and then I'll go for a walk right after. And that walk's usually like a half hour or so. So I don't really consider that like training. It's just exercise. I just like to get outside, listen to a podcast or something. Sometimes I'll do no music, just kind of clear my head. But I enjoy that part of my day. So I'll eat this right beforehand. This is usually something that I'll cook. So I'll have either like salmon or ground beef. Those are the 2 main ones. Every now Every now and then I'll have eggs in the afternoon. But yeah, so I'll have that, and then along with it, I'll usually do white rice almost always. Sometimes if I'm having like eggs, I'll do like wheat toast. Really enjoy the Dave's Killer Bread, delicious stuff. And then if I'm doing like the beef or salmon with the rice, then I'll usually have pretty much always have garlic with that because I love garlic. And then I will also add in some peppers, and then sometimes I'll do like a green vegetable as well, like broccoli or something like that. But I do the peppers because they're pretty easy because I don't actually cook them. I'll just kind of slice them up, rinse them off, and then mix them with everything. And it's a good way to get those vegetables in, get some vitamins and whatnot. Very tasty. And then the last meal at 5 p.m. ish, sometimes later, I'll usually have cottage cheese pretty much always. Sometimes it's yogurt. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little frisky, I'll have like ice cream or something a little bit junky, or like I have these little like chicken finger things that you can get at Costco, and I have an air fryer, so I'll put them in the air fryer. And I might do like a salad with like the chicken finger things on top, something like that. But yeah, so you can get creative here. And then usually it's like a lower carb meal. And if I do have carbs, it's like if I do cottage cheese, it's usually berries, like blackberries or raspberries or something low glycemic with more fiber, right? Just kind of banking that up for the next day. But yeah, so that's basically the full schedule. But the idea of this is that it's important to kind of try this out for yourself and practice with it, because it's kind of a system that requires skill to use. So it's not going to work great for the first, couple weeks or whatever. You're going to have to experiment and find out what works for you. And it takes a very long time to get into a good rhythm with it and then really master it. But basically the core of it is this is the routine, right? And then occasionally you're going to have to go outside of the routine when things go crazy, right? So you have the IFYM approach. So let's say I'm like on a road trip, right? Then maybe I'll stop at a gas station and get like, they have like a protein shake or like beef jerky or something like that. And then I can have like apples or bananas. Like a lot of convenience stores now have like fresh fruit a lot of the time, which is great. So something like that, and then maybe like stop for lunch at like Chipotle or something, try to pick like a more macro-friendly option for that. Try not to eat at like, I don't know, McDonald's or like Olive Garden or something. But yeah, that's the idea. And then you can do this in your daily life too if you have like, work lunches or stuff like that. It's pretty applicable. And then you can apply the time restricted eating if need be. If your training has to be like, if it's not always at the same time, if you have to move it to a different time, you can shift these macros and meals in such a way that you can do that. But yeah, it's good to have a lot of tools in your arsenal to practice with those different styles and kind of figure out what works for you. Other stuff that might work for some people is like, some people like the keto diet. They like that a lot. So like, let's say you are going to be training later in the day, and you usually train in the morning, and you're like, I want to save all my carbs for later in the day, then you might just eat like no carbs in the morning, and you might feel better that way. I personally get like headaches and stuff if I don't eat carbs. So wait for this annoying car to go by outside. But yeah, so I try to avoid stuff like that. I don't really do any like keto or craziness like that. I just kind of eat what I want to eat and eat foods that I enjoy and try to keep it healthy for the most part. And it works pretty well. But yeah, I think that's basically all I wanted to say for the video. So you can try out this template on your own, give it a shot, dial in your nutrition, watch your gains go through the roof. And yeah, that's really all I want to say. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next. All right? Goodbye.